내가 너 어디 보고 반한 거냐? 응?
On his first day out of prison, Woo-cheol's best friend, Do-shik, wanted to throw him a welcome-back celebration, so he called in a sweet and innocent girl. Woo-cheol, unsure of how to react, froze. Seeing how tense and awkward he was, the girl surprised him by taking the initiative. Woo-cheol resisted, grabbing her hand and asking her to stop. In the struggle, he accidentally noticed a scar on her wrist. Realizing she had her own painful story, Woo-cheol felt a deep sense of empathy. As it turns out, Woo-cheol was once a professional boxer. During a match, he accidentally killed his opponent. Arrested and sentenced, he spent 8 years in prison. While serving his time, the mother of the deceased came with her son to confront him, which filled Woo-cheol with overwhelming guilt. He constantly thought about atoning for his crime, even considering suicide, though he could never go through with it. Now, after 8 long years, Woo-cheol was finally free. Today was the day of his release, and Do-shik, along with his men, came to greet him, even preparing a special gift. They went to a small restaurant to catch up, reminiscing about the past. Do-shik hoped Woo-cheol would rejoin him in business, but Woo-cheol had had enough. He longed for a peaceful life. Do-shik, though disappointed, respected his decision. Just then, Do-shik got an urgent call and had to leave. Before heading out, he instructed his men to take good care of Woo-cheol. After a hearty meal, the men brought Woo-cheol to a hotel, encouraging him to enjoy himself. Woo-cheol, still puzzled, didn't understand what was going on until he opened the hotel door and saw the innocent-looking girl waiting for him. He realized his friend's thoughtful, albeit misguided, gesture. Despite the girl's seductive attempts, Woo-cheol remained indifferent, even visibly uncomfortable. In the midst of their awkward encounter, Woo-cheol noticed the scar on Myeong-joo's wrist, realizing she, too, had her own unfortunate past. He felt immense sympathy for her, but Myeong-joo didn't seem to care. She simply turned and walked toward the bathroom. An hour passed, and Woo-cheol still made no move. Just as Myeong-joo was about to leave, she received a call from Soo-jin, warning her not to go home, as a troublesome client was demanding her presence. Left with no choice, Myeong-joo decided to stay at the hotel for the night. So, Myeong-joo quietly slept in the bed, while Woo-cheol, wrapped in his coat, laid down on the sofa. Before long, they both drifted off to sleep. The next morning, Woo-cheol woke up only to find that Myeong-joo had already left, leaving behind a small note with her contact information. However, Woo-cheol didn't give it much thought. Later, burdened by guilt, he visited the grave of the opponent he had accidentally killed. There, he noticed a photo on the tombstone. To his shock, Myeong-joo was the deceased's girlfriend. In that moment, Woo-cheol's world crumbled around him, and he was left utterly devastated. Meanwhile, a tragedy struck elsewhere. Another hostess had been brutally assaulted by a client and was left barely alive. Do-shik arrived to handle the situation. To Do-shik's surprise, the culprit was none other than the corrupt cop Jung Tae-seong. Jung wasn't just a dirty cop. He had connections on both sides of the law and acted as Do-shik's protector. Even after being slapped by Jung, Do-shik had no choice but to swallow his pride. When one of Do-shik's men tried to step up in his defense, Do-shik signaled him to back off. Jung Tae-seong showed no respect, openly humiliating Do-shik's men on the spot.
응? 똑같아.
But Do-shik was powerless, as his entire illegal business relied on Jung Tae-seong to keep things under control. Even Gaksu, a big player in the gang, wouldn't proceed with a deal unless Jung was present. However, as the deal approached, Jung Tae-seong was nowhere to be reached. What Do-shik didn't know was that, at this critical moment, Jung Tae-seong, driven by his own desires, had forced Myeong-joo into something against her will. After receiving a desperate call from Myeong-joo, Woo-cheol rushed to help, but he arrived too late. After Jung Tae-seong left, Woo-cheol quietly followed him into a deserted alley and brutally beat him down. Woo-cheol warned him to never touch Myeong-joo again, but when Woo-cheol realized Jung Tae-seong was a cop, he knew he'd just gotten himself into serious trouble. Fearing the situation could spiral out of control, Woo-cheol told Do-shik everything. Do-shik claimed he would do everything in his power to help Woo-cheol take down Jung Tae-seong, but in reality, it was all part of Do-shik's plan to pull Woo-cheol deeper into the gang. He offered a solution: if Woo-cheol joined the gang, the problem would be taken care of. With no other options, whether for his own sake or for Myeong-joo's, Woo-cheol reluctantly agreed. Do-shik arranged a meeting between Woo-cheol and Jung Tae-seong once again.
왜? 걱정되냐? 하수는 눈앞에 패만 보고 고수는 만들어서 먹는 법이야. 맛있게.
This time, however, surrounded by Do-shik's men and the complex web of interests, Woo-cheol had no choice but to endure Jung Tae-seong's insults. He even swallowed a cup of yellow liquor containing a broken tooth, a deliberate humiliation. In the days that followed, Woo-cheol took on a significant role under Do-shik's leadership, managing the affairs of the hotel. Myeong-joo, now one of the hostesses, worked there as well, but the two acted like strangers. In Myeong-joo's eyes, Woo-cheol had become just another one of those filthy men. Although she ignored him, Woo-cheol couldn't help but approach her, offering comfort when he saw her struggling. The hotel business thrived under Woo-cheol's management, and the number of clients for the hostesses increased, Myeong-joo being one of the most requested. One night, two lawbreakers checked into a hotel, and trouble seemed inevitable. Soo-jin explicitly warned Woo-cheol not to interfere, no matter how wild things got. Loud laughter mixed with the hostesses' cries could be heard from the private rooms. After one of the lawbreakers finished with a waitress, he set his sights on the pearl. As the door closed behind them, Myeong-joo's eyes filled with despair, realizing even her last hope of escape had slipped away. But Myeong-joo wasn't one to compromise. Faced with the thug's unreasonable demands, she lashed out, cursing him angrily. To her surprise, this only enraged the thug.
다시 놀리라! 아가가! 당신 힘성제가 되는 거 있나?
Kang Hyun-soo, hearing the commotion, rushed over. Seeing the situation, he quickly apologized to the thug and then, playing the hero, harshly scolded him, telling him to let go and not hurt the customer. But when Woo-cheol looked over at Myeong-joo, his eyes were filled with fury.
나중구만. 나중구만.
That night, the incident escalated to the point that the police were called. The thug was arrested, and Myeong-joo was also taken to the station. Jung Tae-seong, wanting to keep Woo-cheol in line, privately warned him not to get involved any further. Knowing he had violated the gang's rules, Woo-cheol had no choice but to swallow his pride and keep quiet. However, just as he was about to leave, a young man suddenly rushed at him from behind and stabbed him in the abdomen. With his excellent combat skills, Woo-cheol quickly knocked the young man down. Then Jung Tae-seong struck the young man over the head with a heavy blow, rendering him incapable of further resistance. Upon interrogation, they discovered that the attacker was the brother of the man Woo-cheol had accidentally killed. He was out for revenge. Jung Tae-seong brought Hyun-soo back to the police station, intending just to file a report and release him, but unexpectedly, they ran into Myeong-joo there. This led Jung Tae-seong to tell Hyun-soo the truth about Woo-cheol's past. He then used Myeong-joo as bait, successfully planting a bug on Woo-cheol's phone. Meanwhile, Do-shik, no longer bound by Jung Tae-seong's control, introduced Woo-cheol to Gak-soo. Gak-soo warmly welcomed Woo-cheol, even offering him a chance to work together. This gave Do-shik the idea of pushing Jung Tae-seong out of the picture. However, what Do-shik didn't know was that the cunning Jung Tae-seong had already begun to question his loyalty. This made Do-shik's plan to take Jung Tae-seong down incredibly risky, with the potential for a complete disaster. As Do-shik struggled to make a decision, Jung Tae-seong preemptively approached Woo-cheol. He revealed the truth about how Do-shik had rigged the match years ago to secure a win.
아, 왜 누가 죽인 거야? 때린 송우철이?
소리 괜찮아?
아니면은 약탄 장도식이?
And all this time, Woo-cheol had never once doubted his friend. On this day, because of Myeong-joo, Woo-cheol decided to meet Do-shik. Woo-cheol no longer trusted Do-shik and had little hope for the upcoming illicit deal. However, being loyal by nature, he warned Do-shik not to involve Myeong-joo, but Woo-cheol was still too naive. He underestimated Do-shik's cunning.
왜? 벗어. 빨리 벗어. 나 시간 없어.
Soo-jin, standing nearby, couldn't bear to see Myeong-joo humiliated, so she stepped in to stop Do-shik. When this attempt to sow discord failed, Jung Tae-seong resorted to using Hyun-soo instead. He orchestrated a plan, manipulating Hyun-soo's anger. When Myeong-joo was home alone, he pushed Hyun-soo into a murderous rage, convincing him that Myeong-joo should be punished for associating with the man responsible for his brother's death. Instead of seeking revenge, blinded by hatred, Hyun-soo lost all sense of reason, just as Woo-cheol received the call and rushed to Myeong-joo's home. He found Soo-jin unconscious, lying in a pool of blood on the floor. Myeong-joo, terrified and shaking uncontrollably, stood nearby.
괜찮아. 곧 괜찮아질 거야. 내가 그렇게 만들 거야.
Jung Tae-seong seized this opportunity to blackmail Woo-cheol, telling him that if he delivered the money on the day of the deal, both he and Myeong-joo would be allowed to leave safely. It turned out the whole deal was never about the transaction, it was a premeditated scam. Each of them harbored a wild beast within. Do-shik was only concerned with getting the contraband from Gak-soo, but the money from the deal would never make its way to him as planned. They tasked Woo-cheol with eliminating Gak-soo and delivering the money to the address Jung Tae-seong provided. If Woo-cheol completed this mission, he could take Myeong-joo to safety. A ruthless crime boss, an ex-boxer who served 8 years in prison trying to reform, and a crooked cop, all entered into an uneasy alliance for their own selfish gains. Before leaving, Myeong-joo begged Woo-cheol to come back safely. Hearing Woo-cheol's resolute answer gave Myeong-joo a small sense of relief. Before leaving, Woo-cheol entrusted Myeong-joo's safety to his most trusted subordinate, Hyun-tae, instructing him to take good care of her. Then he went to the designated meeting point for the deal with Gak-soo. As per the plan, Woo-cheol made quick work of Gak-soo, eliminating him efficiently. Once Gak-soo was dealt with, Woo-cheol made the call, instructing that the money be sent to the specified location, but little did he know, Jung Tae-seong and Do-shik had already conspired to eliminate Woo-cheol. After receiving the money, they turned on him and suddenly opened fire.
찌고 싶은데.
Shot and wounded, Woo-cheol, in a desperate moment, managed to surprise Jung Tae-seong, seizing the gun and turning it on him. In his arrogance, Jung Tae-seong paid the ultimate price as Woo-cheol pulled the trigger, ending his life. When Do-shik heard nothing from Jung Tae-seong, he realized something had gone wrong. In a panic, he tried to flee with the goods, but to his shock, Gak-soo had left behind a backup plan. In the midst of the fight by the river, Gak-soo had survived. Determined to reclaim his lost contraband, Gak-soo decided to wipe out the entire gang.
장 사장!
After a bloody duel, Do-shik's lieutenant, Kang Hyun-soo, was captured by Gak-soo. As the power shifted, the once mighty Do-shik fled, desperate to save his life. At the same time, Woo-cheol, worried about Myeong-joo's safety, rushed to regroup with his men, but to his dismay, Myeong-joo was nowhere to be found. He was told she had been hidden in a safe place. Just as Woo-cheol was about to leave, a noise from the car caught his attention. He realized something was wrong and was suddenly attacked by his subordinate, catching him completely off guard. To Woo-cheol's shock, the one man he trusted had betrayed him at the last moment. Through his subordinate's words, Woo-cheol learned the truth. Do-shik had kidnapped the subordinate's beloved woman and forced him to betray Woo-cheol. Remembering the day of his release, when this very man had welcomed him with a gift, Woo-cheol, always compassionate, spared his life. But before he died, Woo-cheol had one final request: to protect Myeong-joo. That night was far from peaceful. The subordinate thought he had completed his task and rescued his girlfriend, but before he could escape, he was killed. Meanwhile, Kang Hyun-soo, who had followed Do-shik for years, chose to switch sides after the battle. On this day, he finally took Do-shik's life with his own hands. As the ultimate victor of this event, Gak-soo now took control of all the bar's operations, but poor Myeong-joo, overwhelmed with grief after Woo-cheol's death, lost her will to live. In the end, she had nothing left to hold on to. The movie ends,